Everybody, and welcome back to the European Soccer Show. With me, as ever, is the equally charming and far more handsome Leo. Hello, Leo. How's
Hi
everything?
Daniel, how are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. I'm clearly in a very good mood, despite the fact that the UK is currently experiencing the 500th day in a row of rain, and everybody's miserable. But so
And
far,
do you want to know something? It's the
yeah.
same thing in France. In Paris,
Oh,
it's been raining for 2 weeks now, and it will
yes.
be for two more weeks.
That's right. Well, I'm sure that's why everybody tuned in to listen to the weather chat. But in fact, no, we're going to move on to other things. It was pouring goals. That's what it was. Raining goals across several leagues. But we'll get into that in due course. But to start with, we're going to talk about the Premier League. And on Friday, Leeds United temporarily opened up a 9-point gap between them and the relegation zone after they won 3-1 against relegation rivals Nottingham Forest. Yes, another goal for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And on Saturday, to talk about 9 points, Arsenal briefly had a 9-point lead at the top of the table after they defeated Sunderland 3-0, with goals coming from Zubimende and 2 from Victor Gyökeres, none of which were set pieces. Ooh. Elsewhere, you also had Manchester United defeating Spurs 2-0. We'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Bournemouth 1, Aston Villa 1. Aston Villa's title challenge well and truly over, but also now at risk potentially of losing a Champions League spot. Discussion. Elsewhere as well, West Ham United really buried Burnley, so that's the 2 relegation places almost certainly gone after defeat West Ham 2-0 at Burnley. Meanwhile, in the surprising European chases, Fulham lost at home 2-1 against Everton. Everton coming from behind to win there. Chelsea defeated Wolverhampton Wanderers 3-1 at Molineux with a hat-trick for Cole Palmer, 2 of which were penalties, all in the first half. And the last match on Saturday, Newcastle United's poor form continues, losing at home against Brentford 3-2. And on Sunday, the M23 derby, that's right, a derby explained by a motorway. Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Crystal Palace 1. Crystal Palace getting a little bit of breathing space between them and relegation. And the big one on Sunday, Liverpool 1, Manchester City 2. So let's go to the start of the weekend. A quick word on Leeds United. Leeds United's recovery continues. And at the time was a 9-point gap, but still 6 points between them and relegation. Leeds United, it feels like while at home, while at Ellen Road, it feels like they could take on anybody at the minute to Ellen Road.
Yeah, it's not the time for the tribal trivia, but I got a statistic for you. They have won 22 of their 29 points at home this season, Leeds United. So, yeah, you're right by saying it's so difficult to win there. For example, I remember I think it was a Monday night game against Chelsea 2 or 3 months ago. I remember we've talked about that, but I remember what a game it was, and it emphasizes everything which Ellen Road is, in my opinion.
Well, also it heightens the fact that it was another night match. So it was a Friday night match. And there's this weird statistic saying that Leeds United have won every match this season played at night.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Perhaps they're just night owls as well. But also, apart from anything else, it felt like a big moment because, of course, Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, neck and neck at the time. The 2 places immediately above relegation, and Leeds United seemed to be the team to grab the momentum, to grab the ball by its horns. I think is what I'm trying to say. They're the ones that really brought it to Nottingham Forest, and really, this was an important match, wasn't it?
It was even crucial because I think we will have a word on West Ham afterwards, but they won this game. Leeds and Forest were 26 points. Were both 26 points. So now the winner took it all. I think we can say like that because they are now.
The winner took it all, much like ABBA.
Yeah, because they are now 6 points ahead of the relegation zone, and most importantly, they are level with Tottenham.
Well, yes, I was actually going to bring this in. So let's talk. I want to talk more about, because we tend to speak about the same teams each week, and I wanted to open up a bit more about the relegation spot. First of all, for credit for West Ham United and Nuno Espirito Santo, who it did feel like he was also at risk of losing his job only about a month ago. And yet West Ham's turnaround has been fantastic. It does coincide with them hiring that new assistant manager. I forget his name, but he was formerly manager at Rayo Vallecano a few years back. And he's now, since his arrival, West Ham United have seen like a much more potent attacking force, which inevitably will be have something down to him as well. But credit to West Ham United and Nuno, because they are, had this not happened, then the 3 relegation spots would have been sewn up really by now. And yet they've won 3 of their last 4 matches. They are within touching distance of Nottingham Forest and only 6 points behind Leeds United still and Tottenham Hotspur. They deserve credit for keeping themselves in the fight. And also some impressive victories recently.
Yeah, and we were talking about Leeds United minutes ago. I find some parallels between those 2 teams, because if you remember when Leeds won, I don't know how many games in a row, we underlined that Dominic Calvert-Lewin was very important in this series, and for West Ham, it's quite the same thing with Somerville, who has now scored in 5 games in a row. So it's obviously important to have an informed forward when you.
Very true. But I think one of the criticisms of West Ham in the past has always been how reliant they are on Jared Bowen, as in like give the ball to Bowen, make something happen. But of course, having a potent winger on the other side, suddenly if people are drawn to Bowen, and that flank is less protected, so of course now that teams will be reacting to Somerville, gives more space for Bowen. So there's a bit more balance to the side as well.
Yeah, and they were lacking of pragmatism in front of the goal, because I remember during Nuno's first games, they didn't had shots on target, they didn't score, and now they do. They have some reliable forwards. Even Tati Castellanos arrived this winter. He has scored twice since. So it's important for them to be able to rely on forwards who can score.
Well, again, so big tick for West Ham United, big tick for Leeds United. Slightly concerning, obviously very concerning for Nottingham Forest, only 3 points above the relegation zone. Hasn't felt quite like Sean Dyche has balanced the team. It feels like they're very hit and miss, and more miss than hit, has to be said. But then let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, because again, it's that classic of surely a team that is too big to go down. And I know people said that about Newcastle United a few seasons ago when it happened. But I mean, practically speaking, Spurs aren't necessarily a bigger club, but they certainly have a lot more money. They got that huge stadium, one of the finest in the world. They've got some of the best training facilities in the world. As an infrastructure thing, the club should be too big to go down. It's certainly worth too much money to be relegated. They lost 2-0 at Manchester United. Hard to know what kind of match it would have been, because there was another red card for Christian Romero. Thomas Frank described it as being the perfect storm, like the end of the perfect storm, because this past week he's once again criticised the ownership of Tottenham Hotspur, only allowing 11 fit players in the squad and not signing reinforcements in the transfer window. Well, more reinforcements. And yet he was sent off within half an hour of the match at Manchester United. So first of all, again, Manchester United 4 wins on the bounce. Hey, sharpen up those scissors and get off the cover for the razor, because that guy might be having a haircut next week. I think they're playing West Ham, actually. But the real thing is Spurs. Spurs are 6 points ahead of the relegation zone. When does this become realistic that they could go down? Is it when they're within touching distance? Does it have to be 3 points for them to take it seriously? Because currently it does seem a bit, nonchalant. It seems quite not arrogant to like too big to go down, but it does feel like that it has been considered as a possibility.
Yeah, but to be honest, even today, it's hard to imagine them being relegated at the end of the season. But you've mentioned Christian Romero, and I think this game against Manchester United, there is an interesting point to be made in comparing Romero and Bruno Fernandes, because when Manchester United were in trouble, whether you like or not Bruno Fernandes, he was always decisive, given assists or scoring goals. And this weekend during the game, it proved to be right again, because he scored a goal, while Cristiano Romero was shown a red card, another one with Tottenham, at the after only 15 minutes or 20.
It's 29, so yeah,
Yeah.
within half an hour.
And now Romero will be out for four games. For
Do you know?
Tottenham.
Would you like to know which? So since we're on that subject, I've got the 4 games in front of me because it was next thing I was going to bring up. So you tell me if you think the number of points you think Tottenham Hotspur will get through these fixtures without Cristiano Romero. Remember?
Okay.
So the next match is home to Newcastle United.
A draw. I would go
with
a
that.
draw.
The match after that, home to Arsenal.
Sorry, but for a defeat. But it's not because it's Tottenham. It's because it's Arsenal. Yeah.
Away to Fulham. European
I will.
Fulham.
Yeah, I'll go with a draw too.
And finally, home to Crystal Palace.
Given the form of Crystal Palace, I would tempted to go with a win, but with Tottenham, we can also expect another draw.
I think what I'm getting at though is like, how many points do they need from these games for them not to be in trouble? I guess, like for example, if they don't win any of them, I think it's feasible to say that if West Ham win one more of their matches, and like essentially over the next 4 games, West Ham United have an opportunity to catch up a bit more. So realistically, like the next 4 matches are vital because they could feasibly. Well, I mean, the next 2, especially home to Newcastle, God knows what will happen there. Those the 2 most underwhelming teams of the season, and home to Arsenal, possibly certainly the most consistent team of the season. Within 2 matches, they could be within touching distance, and suddenly panic stations.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, you've mentioned West Ham. I took a look at their schedule for the end of the season. It will be tough with some big names in it. So that's maybe the symbol of hope for Tottenham. But of course, with you've mentioned the training facilities, the stadium, the big club status, their player,
and they're still in the Champions League. They're still having to do league.
Yeah, but everything they shouldn't be at this place in the league. It's unbelievable.
Last word. I mean, I'm also deliberately aren't really talking about Manchester City, despite the fact Manchester City's victory from behind against Liverpool was a fantastic show of character. And the way it was interesting how the commentators and the people afterwards talked about how up until the 84th minute when Bernardo Silva equalised, the title race was over because they were 9 points behind, and yet turned it around and now it's 6 points and the title race is back on, despite the fact it's the same number of points behind as they were before. Quick word on Manchester City. A terrific show of character, and it really felt different, didn't it? Because they've been very underwhelming since the turn of the year, and yet today they stood up and were counted for.
Yeah, we pointed out their lack of mental last week during their draw at Tottenham. But against Liverpool, they were incredibly good in the mental aspect, especially Bernardo Silva is criticized, and I think it's right to criticize him because he wasn't that good, and he's the captain of Manchester City, so he has a status and he has something to prove. But against Liverpool, he was the one to score the equalizer. I remember he took the ball immediately to put it on the to start playing again. Sorry, because I think everyone knew that if Manchester City were to lose at Anfield, the title race were over for Manchester City, and Arsenal would go to win it. But now they are now only 6 points ahead They know how to deal with the pressure of a title race also, because Manchester City, they have won 4 titles in the last years.
Although we should point out many of these players now at Manchester City weren't involved in that team because this is the squad turnover. I mean, obviously, several of them still do, several key players, but actually a good number haven't had that experience. And we do have to move on because we do need to finish the Premier League. But before we do, I thought I would just sort of ask you one last question, which is the top 2 seem to be that's the title race. Despite the fact Aston Villa are only 3 points behind Manchester City, they are only now 3 points ahead of Manchester United, so potentially at risk. But Liverpool, the other fallout from Manchester City defeating Liverpool at Anfield is that Liverpool are now 4 points behind Chelsea in 5th, and 5th will almost certainly be a Champions League spot. So it does feel like Liverpool, of all the teams that have spent big this season, Liverpool really need to get in the Champions League. It would be really concerning if they didn't.
Yeah, I totally agree. They spent like, what, 500 million in the whole season?
Net spend was about 180, 190 million euros. Okay, but we should probably point that out.
It's when you recruit Ekitike, Isaac, Florian Wirtz for I don't know how many millions, you expect them to succeed, and if it's not to win the title, at least being second at least first or second. So, of course, it's a disappointing season for Liverpool. They can still win things because they are still in the Champions League. They are still involved in the FA Cup. So they can win something. But, of course, it will be disappointing if they don't grab the Champions League.
But watch this space regarding the last European spot, because if you think the top 5 get Champions League, 6th is currently Liverpool on 39, 7th is Brentford on 39, and then you got Everton on 37, Sunderland on 36, Fulham and Bournemouth on 34, Newcastle on 33. So Newcastle in 12th place are 6 points behind Liverpool and Brentford. So let's say that Brentford, Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, Bournemouth and Newcastle. Which of those clubs do you think could finish 7th? So 7th and 8th are up for grabs, probably. So that's going to be 1 Europa League spot and 1 Conference League spot. Which of those teams, as like a fun game, which of those teams do you think, they could grab a European spot? So we got Brentford, Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, Bournemouth. Newcastle's like, as much as I want Newcastle to be in Europe, let's chat about the other ones. Because this is an enormous opportunity for another club, one of these other clubs to get into Europe. Fulham, Sunderland, Everton, or Brentford, or Bournemouth. Which one do you think is most likely to steal a spot?
It would maybe be easy to tell that, but I think Brentford are on their way to grab it, because they won extremely important games, starting with the Newcastle one this weekend. They have a striker who has now scored 17 goals in Premier League, which is incredible given the fact that, with all due respect to Brentford, it's Brentford and it's not Manchester United, Manchester City, or Liverpool or whatever. They are a scoring machine, because they have now scored approximately almost 40 goals, I think. And yeah, this team is constant in the last few seasons. And
actually probably comparable, say, like Arsenal might be at top of the league because they're the only truly consistent team. Brentford, not far off the second most consistent team, really. We have to move on. Spent too much time in the Premier League, but let us go sailing across the ocean. We'll probably take a flight, to be honest, probably shorter, to Serie A. So it kicked off on Friday to, well, I think the players forgot they were playing, because Hellas Verona and played Pisa, and it was 0-0, and the combined XG was about 0.1 something. So that happened. But then on Saturday, an excellent game occurred. Genoa 2, Napoli 3. Napoli showing great character as well, winning the match in the 5th minute of stoppage time through a Rasmus Højlund penalty, despite the fact they'd been reduced to 10 men earlier in the game. Elsewhere on Saturday, Fiorentina and Torino drew 2-2. Fiorentina were briefly out of the relegation zone, but hearts were broken when Torino found a stoppage time equaliser as well. On Sunday, Parma defeated Bologna. with another stoppage time goal with their only shot on target. Bologna's form continues to do it. Both teams being reduced to 10 men in that one. And also, what's that? Is that historical Leo saying Lecce had no chance? Lecce won! That's right, Lecce defeated Udinese 2-1, with Banda getting a last-minute winner for Lecce. Elsewhere, Inter won 5-0 at Sassuolo. 5 different goal scorers for that. Sassuolo also had a man sent off in that, but much later. Juventus 2, Lazio 2. Lazio came from 2 goals down to draw against Lazio. Lazio, who scored from their only 2 shots on target. And there was a equaliser in the 6th minute of stoppage time for Kalulu for Juventus. And on Monday, Atalanta 2, Cremonese 1. Cremonese slide towards the relegation zone continues. And Roma scored some goals. Daniel Marlin getting both as Roma defeated Cagliari 2-0. So, first of all, let's go on to Saturday night. Napoli, again, the bodies keep falling. Even Scott McTominay, who scored in this game, he had to go off injured in the first half. And yet, Napoli showed some real grit, determination. Juan Jesus was sent off with 15 minutes to go with the score 2-2. And yet, they found a way. Speaks volumes about the bodies actually at the club. So it's not just a lot of ego. There's a lot of hard work there.
Yeah, it was an important win for Napoli because they are looking to stay on the podium with the pressure of Juventus, of Roma, of Como, who will be playing AC Milan next week because the game was postponed. It was important, and seeing them scoring in the last second of the game, especially with Oilun, who experienced a difficult January. It's good for the confidence of the team and for the confidence of the striker. So great victory away at Genoa for Napoli.
Absolutely. Genoa, who've actually been in excellent form of late as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned Juventus. We'll skip on to that as well. So Juventus 2-0 down against Lazio. It felt like another one of those moments where they let it slip because Lazio weren't that good. It did feel like there were a lot of Juventus mistakes. And also, we should point out, Juventus were the dominant team. It's not as if this is an unlucky thing. But it does feel like, again, it's the balance of, do you concentrate on the fact that they managed to snatch a point at the death, or do you concentrate on the fact that it took them until the 6th minute stoppage time to find an equaliser as opposed to win the game?
Yeah, I prefer to see this draw on a positive note because they were trailing 2-0 at home against Lazio, and as you mentioned, they were quite dominant. Lazio were more realistic in front of the goal, and Juventus showed that they had mental strength to come back and fight for the Champions League, and want to give credits to Weston McKennie. He confirms he's in top form. He has scored 5 goals since the beginning of 2026. So he's a leading player at Juventus, and which is obviously important for them. So yeah, Juventus, they have a very good attack. They have also a very good defense. So now they are still in the race for the podium, and it will be interesting till the end with Napoli.
Well, yeah, on that note, so Napoli in 3rd place pull 3 points ahead of Juventus with those results. So you've got AC Milan second on 50 points, 8 points behind Inter, who we'll talk about in just a moment. But AC Milan do have a game in hand. Napoli only 1 point behind and 3 points ahead of Juventus. And Napoli being 3 points ahead of Roma. So Roma's victory over Cagliari, a very, again, good form for Cagliari, means that there are 3 points separating 3rd and 5th. Now, this is vital, isn't it? Because Italy it's not currently looking likely that they will get the 5th Champions League spot. So one of those teams is going to miss out on Champions League football. And it feels essential for every single club to get into Champions League, doesn't it?
Yeah. As you said, because you've mentioned Roma and the fact that they finally scored goals, it seems that they maybe have found the forward they needed with Daniel Malen. Maybe the player to send them to Champions League. He has already scored 3 goals in 4 since his arrival this winter. They also recruited Robinho Vaz from Marseille, but I think it's more for the future. They lacked goals at the beginning of the season because the strikers, Ferguson and I don't remember the name of the other striker, but they were out of form, they were injured, so they absolutely needed goals, and maybe they have finally found the player.
Dovbyk.
Yeah, Dovbyk, Artem Dov, who had a terrible season at Girona last season. So they finally have found the forward that suits them.
Yeah, so we got a 3-way fight for 2 Champions League spots with AC Milan trying to chase down Inter. So Inter, last word for the Serie A on Inter, who Sassuolo have been a bit of a bogey team for them in the past. But this was destructive, wasn't it? 5 goals, 5 different goal scorers. Bisek, Marcus Thuram, Lautaro Martinez, Akanji, late goal for Luis Enrique. It's not the fact that they keep winning, it's the fact that they don't seem to be exerting too much energy. It'd be one thing if they were having to squeeze every drop, but it seems like every single match is easy for them.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I think with Inter Milan we could say the same thing every week, because we've talked about their depth of potential scorers. It has been shown against Sassuolo once again this weekend. As you mentioned, they scored 5 with 5 different goal scorers, 2 defenders, 1 fullback, 1 forward. So everyone in this team is capable of scoring, and that's why they are so lethal in front of the goal and so dangerous to their opponents.
So last word, I mean, just before we leave Serie A, we should probably point out that from 14th place downwards, only 2 teams won, Parma and Lecce. Fiorentina briefly out of the relegation zone before Torino's equaliser. But also Lecce's victory means Lecce are 3 points ahead of Fiorentina now. So Fiorentina, it feels like, despite the fact that they did sort of pull themselves up a little bit, that's now only 1 win in their last 6 games. Although, to be fair, they have had some difficult fixtures. They're still in it, but it does feel like Fiorentina need to react now. And not only that, but now Lecce seem capable of actually catching Cremonese, who have only picked up 2 points in the last 6 games.
Yeah.
I think they're winless in 10, 11, something like that. So the fact that Cremonese, Lecce, Fiorentina, they're much like your Champions League fight, it feels like those 3 are going to be the ones fighting out for that last relegation spot, because it looks like, even despite the fact they're only 6 points behind, Pisa and Hellas Verona just seem incapable of any victories.
Yeah, it will be a tough battle till the end. You've talked about Fiorentina. Of course, it's a shame that they have lost two vital points in the race for the relegation, especially since Pisa, Verona, Lecce, and even Parma, they have all registered good results. So it was important for Fiorentina to win this game against Torino side, who have been experienced difficulties these past weeks, but they haven't, and conceded the equalizer that way in the dying seconds. It's obviously sad for them.
Okay, well, in that case, let's pop off to Germany, shall we? And the Bundesliga. Right, well, looking on Friday, Union Berlin and Frankfurt shared a 1-1 draw. Nothing much to report about, but so much happened with only 10 minutes to go. Frankfurt scored with 7 minutes to go, and then they had a man sent off, Højlund, for a second yellow. Sorry, that was Brown scored on the 83rd minute. Højlund scored 2 minutes later. Sorry, Højlund got sent off 2 minutes later. This is a terrible roundup. Querfeld scored 2 minutes later for Union Berlin. mad last 10 minutes for that game. On Saturday, Freiburg defeated Werder Bremen 1-0 despite having a man sent off with half an hour to go. Heidenheim lost at home to Hamburg 2-0. Mainz in the relegation zone since the opening day of the weekend. They've been bottom for the last, I want to say 3 months, 4 months. They defeated Augsburg and lifted themselves out of the relegation spot. The turnaround has occurred. Speaking of which, St. Pauli, an incredible defeat of Stuttgart, winning 2-1 at home, which means St. Pauli also look trying to get out of the relegation zone. Borussia Dortmund had an impressive 2-1 victory at Wolfsburg. Nervy moment, but a late Girassi's goal actually closed the gap to Bayern to 3 points. Briefly. Anyway, Borussia Mönchengladbach drew 1-1 with Bayer Leverkusen. And then on Sunday, RB Leipzig defeated Köln at Köln 2-1. A couple of goals for Baumgartner. And then Bayern doing Bayern things, defeating the unstoppable Hoffenheim 5-1, as one does. So let's start with Bayern. So there's been a bit of talk, because obviously the last 2 games, Bayern only picked up 1 point from the last 6. And there was this conversation of, is this going to be a difficult game for Bayern, or are they just going to wake up once a big team comes along or a dangerous team comes along? And lo and behold, a 5-1 victory. But that's not the whole story, is it?
No, it was a risky game for Bayern, given the fact that Dortmund had won the day before. So they absolutely needed to win this one, because there will be Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund in the coming weeks. So a win a Dortmund win could have allow them to equalize in terms of points. But Bayern did what Bayern do the best. They just crushed Hoffenheim. Of course, they were helped by Akpoguma's sent off after 15 minutes, but they were just great.
So we should say that this is very much the game of Luis Diaz. Not only did he get a hat trick, but he won both penalties for which Harry Kane scored both goals. So that's 5 goal involvements in one game for Luis Diaz, which is the first time in the Bundesliga a player has had 5 goal involvements in one match since
Robert Lewandowski.
It was since November when Michael Olise got 5.
Michael Olise, he put 4 assists, no?
Goal involvements. I think he also won a penalty. Or scored as well. So 5 goal involvements. Okay. So yeah, it's that crazy thing that twice in the same season, Bayern
impressive
player have 5 goal involvements. That's that. But also, it shows that they're either wings. Like, that's how good they are. The fact that they've got Kane, and on either side they have these destructive, incredibly creative and tricky players.
And which is interesting, it's the fact that there were questions or concerned about Luis Diaz's arrival at Bayern Munich last summer, because we asked where Liverpool right to sell him, where Bayern right to buy him at like 70 million euros, 60 million pounds. But the fact is that today, I don't think his management regrets to have invested. He has scored a lot of goals, 18, sorry. Delivered 14 assists in 30 games, so great involvement.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. This is a sort of Ballon d'Or discussion, depending on how well Bayern do in Europe. A word on Dortmund, yet again not looking completely convincing, but yet again finding a late goal and showing the fact that they will fight to the end to get these necessary points. If only, not obviously, this is not necessarily a title race, but it certainly is still alive.
Yeah, they are on a 14-game unbeaten run in the Bundesliga, which is obviously amazing.
It's also the longest currently.
Yeah, they have only lost 1 game, as Bayern did. They are. You mentioned their last-minute goal. They are managing to snatch crucial points at the end of games now, and to be honest, I don't think they will catch up with Bayern Munich. But if they want to. The fact that Serhou Guirassy finally finds back his form by scoring goals, it will be important for them because they desperately need a striker to score these crucial goals, and Guirassy is one of them.
Yeah, also, and we should probably say a word for Hoffenheim, because having a man sent off so early is not necessarily a reflection of the game itself. So Hoffenheim were still brave after having a man sent off. They hit the bar when it was 1-0.
Yeah,
I think
they scored.
So, and of course they scored.
Yeah.
They did equalise, didn't they? I think they had a chance to equalise again, or certainly bring it back to 3-2. So the fact is that this was a closer, or Hoffenheim a better performance than it sounds. But also it was a bit of a free hit. The fact that they had caught all this up, they were third. I mean, they still are third. Having that 3-point gap over Stuttgart and 6-point gap over RB Leipzig. Again, free hit. And actually, despite the fact that, despite the weekend, they are still 3 points ahead of Leipzig and Stuttgart. So they're still in prime position to try and fight for third place.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they can, because there will be pressure then from Leipzig, from Stuttgart, from Leverkusen with a game in hand. So it will be interesting to see if they can resist the pressure of this Champions League race.
And we have to talk about Mainz.
Yeah.
There was genuine talk about them being the first relegated team. Written off, 4 wins in the last 5 matches since changing manager. An astonishing turnaround. They're now 14th, and if you don't know what it means, so at the bottom, Heidenheim on 13th. St. Pauli, again, brilliant victory for St. Pauli out of nowhere. Keeps them within touching distance of the teams above them. But then we got some big teams in Werder Bremen and Wolfsburg on 19, and then 2 points ahead of them, Mainz. So Mainz are actually clear of relegation. They're within touching distance of the playoff spot, but they are clear of the relegation zone. Again, an astonishing turnaround.
Yeah, and it shows that the race for the battle for the to avoid relegation is extremely difficult in the Bundesliga and really disputed, because with a free win series, they can grab some places, some spots, and if, for example, they win another game, they could even be 11th in the table. So it's interesting to see that a lot of teams in the Champions League, they are approximately at the same level, and a win can change everything for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, if you look at, say, like Köln in 10th place, only 4 points ahead of Werder Bremen in the relegation spot.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of teams like Köln, Hamburg, Mönchengladbach, Augsburg, all looking over their shoulders all of a sudden, all getting very nervous.
Yeah.
Right, we should park the Bundesliga there. You know what? Let's take a small soiree into La Liga. I think, well, it wouldn't be a soiree. It would be the Spanish version. I don't know.
El Paseo.
Ah, that works. This is why you don't need an English speaker, for a native English speaker for these.
Hablo un poco español, si quieres.
¿Dónde está la bit? No. You know what? I don't understand a word of it, but Bad Bunny, I loved it anyway. Right, so La Liga. So looking at La Liga on Friday, Osasuna's returned to form. Astonishing potential sprint for Europe. Osasuna went up to 8th place with a victory at Celta Vigo, 2-1. Their 3rd win in 4 matches. On Saturday, Barcelona, a nice, a little soiree to Mallorca, at home against Mallorca, 3-0, with goals from Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal, and the turn of Marc Bernal. Real Sociedad also charging towards Europe, despite their relegation fears only a short time ago, beating Elche 3-1, their 4th win in 5 games. Real Vallecano and Real Oviedo was postponed. We'll talk about that shortly. And then on Sunday, Getafe had their first win in 11, I believe it was, winning 2-0 at Alaves to ease their relegation concerns. Athletic Club won a chaotic match against Levante, 4-2. Sevilla and Girona shared a 1-1 draw. Atletico Madrid lost at home against Real Betis, with Anthony getting the only goal. A lovely goal as well. Real Madrid had a fairly easy 2-0 victory over Valencia, but again, did not look good. And then finally, last night on Monday evening, Villarreal beat Espanyol 4-1. So a quick word on the top 2. Barcelona, a fairly easy stroll in the park. Real Madrid, stodgy, uninspired, but still getting the victories needed.
Yeah, it was starting with Barcelona. It was a clear victory over Mallorca with another goal from Lamine Yamal, who has now been decisive in each of his last 7 games, scoring 6, assists twice. So and scoring another banger because I've got the impression that he only knows how to score bangers. This kid, because he is a kid. Um, Mallorca, they are the 18th worst team in the league away from home, so it was like what we could expect from them at the Camp Nou. And for Real Madrid, yeah, as you said, another house victory, but it's a victory. It's an important one to keep in touch with Barcelona, 1 point behind them. Kylian Mbappe once again scored as he.
Interesting the fact that Dani Carvajal wasn't selected, because there was a lot of media coverage on the fact that he was ignored and there was a youth product chosen over him, as well as the returning Trent Alexander-Arnold. Dani Carvajal, a legend of Real Madrid, and that's again, that word is thrown around a lot, but he very much is. There's an interesting situation considering player power played a role in Xabi Alonso getting the sack. It's interesting that actually the dynamic here isn't good either, despite the fact that Arbeloa is a former player and it's very much come through their coaching system as well. Strange feeling around Real Madrid.
Yeah, strange, but it was the same a few weeks ago. You've mentioned the Carvajal's case. I've read a report saying that it should be his last season at Real Madrid. He has been injured this season with some bad injury, so he seems to have lost his place, despite the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold has been terrible since arriving at Real Madrid. So there is, of course, a problem with Carvajal.
So let's probably say that Trent's also had a lot of injuries. It's not.
Yeah,
there's not been a period of consistency.
Of course, but when he played, he was not really good.
Still finding his feet.
Yeah.
So yes, Barcelona, Real Madrid still at the top. Third, Atletico Madrid, but only just level on points with Villarreal, who still have a game in hand. So Villarreal, we've said before, real opportunity for them to finish third, and their game in hand is against Levante down in the relegation zone. In fifth place, Real Betis, 7 points behind Villarreal in that fifth spot, potentially a Champions League spot. But then beneath Betis, there's an interesting thing going, because Espanyol, despite the wonderful season they've had, that is 4 losses in the last 5, only 1 point in that time. They're dropping rapidly. Celta Vigo have lost momentum as well, only getting 1 point from the last 3 games. And yet, Real Sociedad, 4 wins in the last 5, and now only 3 points behind 6th place. Despite the fact that they had a terrible first half of the season, there is an opportunity for them to find European football.
Yeah, because they have been really great. They have been doing great under Pellegrino Matarazzo. He's still undefeated at the end of Real Sociedad. He won 5 games, drawn 2. He has won an average of 2.4 points per game. So they're now close to Europe. And when you take a look at the form of Celta and Espanyol, who have lost their last 4, they conceded 11 goals, Espanyol, in the last 4 games, while they had only conceded 20 in the last, 19th. So it shows that their defense is lacking something they had in the first half of the season. Celta Vigo, they will play in Europa League also, so of course it will drain some energy.
Yeah. Opportunity knocks, and we should add a little word. So obviously it's well documented, the intense relegation battle. 11th place, the entire bottom half of La Liga are separated. Well, Getafe in 11th at 26 points. Rayo Vallecano in 18th, the last relegation spot, 22. So 4 points separating 11th and 18th. But the strange situation where Rayo Vallecano, Levante, and Real Oviedo all have a game in hand, although Vallecano and Oviedo play each other. The teams above them, Valencia, Mallorca, Elche, Alaves, Sevilla, again, looking over the shoulder. Quick question. In the last six games, which team in La Liga has the worst form? Who's picked up the fewest points in the last 6 matches?
Maybe Espanyol, because they have lost four in a row.
Yes, but they got a win before that. So they've got 4 points out of 6. It's a bit of a... it's Elche. Elche, again, a team that had such an incredible, wonderful start to the season. They're now only 2 points ahead of Rayo Vallecano. No wins in 8, I believe it is. They've lost 3 in the row. They're dropping fast, aren't they?
Yeah.
And these other teams that are, picking up, Mallorca have won a game, Alaves have won a game, Girona turned it around brilliantly, even Getafe just won a match. So you have all these teams that are sort of jumping up, and Elche just can't seem to get the win.
Yeah, but the fact that they have, fortunately for them, they had a great first half of the season with wins and draws, important wins and draws. But yeah, they are now 2 points, just 2 points in front of Rayo Vallecano. So they absolutely need to gain some points, because it will be tough, even if Levante win their game in hand. Speaking of Levante, I don't know if you saw the 2 goals against Athletic Club. Maybe the 2 best goals from a defeated team. To be honest, it were.
I did see that there were 4 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game and stopping
time,
which is
but if you have the occasion, take a look at Levante's 2 goals. Brilliant.
Sure.
So,
and also, I should have probably last thing to talk about in La Liga, the fact that Rayo Vallecano and Real Oviedo, the match was postponed.
Because of rains.
Sorry?
Because of the rain?
No, it's very strange. So Rayo Vallecano, there's been the whole season, their pitch has been in terrible state. They've got terrible training conditions, like players showering cold water, that kind of thing, right? And then the owners decided to, the night before the match against Real Oviedo, vital relegation clash, they decided to replace the pitch the day before the match. So then Real Oviedo turn up, as do the officials from La Liga, and it's obvious that the game can't be played, so it's postponed, despite the fact that not only have the team, Real Oviedo, travelled for the match, and all the fans, and all of that. Yeah, so it was postponed. So now Oviedo, I believe, are considering a legal challenge against Vallecano. But it also led Santi Cazorla to criticise La Liga on social media, and comparing it to the Premier League, saying it's light years apart. But yes, so we have to leave La Liga there. And finally, now it's a soiree. Now it's a lovely, tasty little over to France with Ligue 1. And also, have you done your laundry recently? Because there are a lot of clean sheets in Ligue 1. So yes, 18 teams, 10 clean sheets. On Friday, Metz and Lille played out 0-0.
A terrible game.
Yes. Well, I think there are a couple of those. Anyway, Lens exit game against Rennes, defeating them 3-1. We will talk about that. A couple for Brest. That's right, a pair for Brest. 2-0 victory over Lorient. Nantes lost at home against Lyon, despite the fact that Lyon had a man sent off. We will talk about that as well. Lyon 1-0 victories there. And then, if you've heard of Super Sunday in Britain, well, it was Sleepy Sunday in Ligue 1. Well, eventually it wasn't. So you had Nice and Monaco, 0-0. Angers and Toulouse, 1-0 to Angers. Auxerre and Paris FC, 0-0. Le Havre actually won quite a fun game against Strasbourg, 2-1. Strasbourg having a man sent off in the first half hour. But then you felt the earth move, the seismic shake of the giant awakening. Paris Saint-Germain in Le Classique. Is it Le Classique?
Yeah, Le Classique.
Paris Saint-Germain 5, Marseille Marseille, who at one point was mounting a title challenge. Marseille, who were the closest competitors last year. Marseille, who were one of the most dangerous teams. And didn't Marseille defeat them earlier in the season? And
Yeah,
and came close to
Marseille.
defeating them out in Kuwait as well. Paris Saint-Germain 5-0. Let's start there. It was partly terrifying, but also Marseille were awful, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and it was interesting because at the end of the game, Ousmane Dembélé was being interviewed by the French TV shows, and he said that he wanted to put a statement with this game. It reminds me of PSG's last season when they were having a difficult first part of the season, and then being European champions with incredible performances and everything. So they sent a strong message, of course. They took back the lead to Lens. They were tactically and physically above Marseille. And for Marseille, terrible days, because they have been eliminated from the Champions League. Even if they have won against Rennes in the Coupe de France, they have been crushed by PSG. They lost their third place to Lyon. There are internal problems. Roberto De Zerbi, I think, is closer than ever to being sacked, even if, in my opinion, he will not be until the end of the season.
I was going to say, it does feel like they're very much putting all their eggs in the French Cup, because they've not won it since, 1989? Something like that, which is unusual for such a big team in France.
Yeah, of course.
The fact that they have slipped to fourth, and also Paris Saint-Germain being out of the Cup, this is an opportunity for them. But really concerning for Marseille. But we should also say that Paris Saint-Germain got 2 goals from Dembele, a goal from Kvaratskhelia, a goal for Lee Kang-in, and an own goal. They also didn't hit the post 3 or 4 times.
4 times, yeah.
So this actually could have been 9.
And of course, and even more.
This is the biggest win in Le Classique ever.
Yeah,
5 goals.
Yeah.
It's but again, as impressive as Paris Saint-Germain were, really concerning for Marseille. They are at risk of their season all falling apart. But let's go back to Saturday, because a couple of games to talk about. First of all, let's talk about Lyon's victory at Nantes. Lyon, the only goal coming from, is it Schulk?
Pavel Schulk.
Schulk, thank you.
So
it's because it's the accent over the S.
Shush.
But what to talk about is young Endrick getting a straight red card in the second half. Slightly harsh, we should point out as well. But the fact is, Lyon did hold firm despite having 10 men.
Yeah, Lyon, they won again. They didn't necessarily suffered during this game, even though they were reduced to 10 men. But the important is that they are now third. The team is obviously tired. They are all saying it. But the fact that they will now have 1 match to play per week for 3 or 4 weeks will be obviously a real advantage for them. And that's also the advantage of having qualified directly for the Europa League round of 16.
Well, so you say it was 12 matches in a row they've won?
Yeah, 12.
Which is, again, astonishing. But I think what people forget is where Lyon started, because obviously at the end of last season, they were technically relegated from Ligue 1 before the legal challenge.
Yeah.
And the fact that they sold several of their best players in the summer, and the replacements were underwhelming at the time. But the fact is, being third and also being in such a run that feasibly they could finish in the top 3 and qualify for Champions League, as well as challenge for the Europa League title. That is an astonishing season. Which at the start of the season, there was that period in the middle, wasn't there, where they just couldn't seem to win. There were lots of draws, a couple of losses, a lot of blanks. But it seems to have, everything's fitted into place.
Yeah, and we have to note that Lyon, they have a lot of players injured, starting with Malik Fofana, Ernest Nouama, Tagliafico, Tolisso didn't play for 2 weeks now, so they are all regular starters if they are fit. So that's impressive, and they have strengthened the team with a lot of good players, good coup, because Hendrik is obviously one of the most anticipated player in the planet. They have recruited Noah Narte from Brøndby, sorry, who has adapted well to Liga. He has scored last week, so everything seems good for Lyon right now. The only question is, will they be able to physically play on in the Coupe de France, in the Europa League, and in Liga?
Well, let's have a quick word on Lens before we finish then, because we've just commented on before how often it seems like they win 1-0, they take the lead, they control it. This was a very different game. Le Paul opened the scoring for Rennes in the first half before Edouard equalised before half time. So Lens had to fight back, actually, goal down, came back before half time, and then Aguilar scored in the second half before 2 minutes later seeing a second yellow card being sent off. So Lens down to 10 men, holding the lead 2-1, but rather than sit in and defend for their lives, they brought on Alan Saint-Maximin, a new arrival, obviously after he left Club America, after the horrific racist abuse of his daughters. But what an impact he made. So actually Lens played the situation and concentrated on the counter-attack and actually trying to steal another goal as opposed to just sit back on their lead.
Yeah, and
Very
it's
brave.
not. Yeah, it is, because it's interesting to note that Pierre Sage, who is the manager from Lens, is like he loves Pep Guardiola, and Pep Guardiola obviously is an offensive manager. He always wants to attack. He always wants to. When you hear Pep Guardiola, he always says, "I want my players to have the ball in their feet," and that's what Pierre Sage is trying to do with Lens, and is succeeding. It was a crucial victory, and for Rennes, it was a difficult one, because it sounded the last breath for Habib Bey, because he has been sacked by Rennes now. So it was a resounding victory for Lens, and we can say that they will be in the Champions League next season. Sorry.
We should also say Saint-Maximin was the person who actually got the third goal.
Yeah,
as well. So
and
it's a lovely moment for him.
Sensational goal.
Yeah, lovely goal for him. Right, okay, that's the end of the roundup. So how about the three things we may have missed? What do you have for me?
What do I have? We will go to the Maldives. I saw a post from the sweeper, who talk about exotic football, and I found it extremely interesting. There is a club called Valencia Club, like in the city in Spain. They were playing their last match of the season and fighting to stay up, and they achieved to win this game 2-0. But they needed their rivals to win theirs at least 4-0 to lose some. So sorry. They needed their rivals to lose 4-0 to avoid relegation. And what did their rivals do? They just forfeited their games to lose it 3-0. That's terrible. So Valencia were relegated because of that.
That must be a legal challenge.
That
sounds very much like the Germany-Austria 1-0 European Championship thing.
Yeah.
You know, like that's horrible. Okay, what's something you may have missed? In fact, we may have all missed, because you may have noticed in the Serie A roundup, I didn't mention AC Milan or Como.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Because their game was postponed.
Well, sort of. This was the match that was meant to be played in Australia.
Oh yeah, the
this was meant to be happening, but of course it didn't happen for whatever reasons.
Fortunately.
yeah. Was that can worms? But yeah, so they'll be playing next week, midweek. But yeah, so that's why we didn't mention AC Milan or Como, because they should have been playing in Perth, but alas, didn't happen. Anything else we may have missed from you?
Yeah, just an information that came up this afternoon saying that Saudi club Al Ittihad has reportedly begun negotiations with Mohamed Salah over a transfer for next
A
summer.
substantial contract.
Yeah. So,
well, you know what? If Ronaldo might be leaving the league, they need a new poster boy.
Yeah.
We don't have time to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. That would have been a fun one. Actually, you know what? One other thing, just not something you may have missed, but I just want to keep you updated. Last week, I mentioned that there were 5 teams in the entire of Europe that have not won a single game in their entire season. In fact, there's one team that's only got 2 teams. They've only got a single point, one of whom have only got 5 goals in 19 matches. Well, it's 2 matches later. They didn't score, so they're still on 1 point. Still 5 goals in 21 matches. They've got a goal difference of minus 46. They are 21 points behind the next team above them. That's Paralimni in the Cypriot lead. But you know what? Keeping all over this, our friends at AFS in Portugal, the only team in the top 10 European leagues not to win, they are still winless after facing Famalicão in 6th place. But now they're playing 7th place. So I'll keep you updated as we go along for ABS. Do you have a trivial trivia before you leave?
No, I don't. Do you?
I have a couple. One's very easy. One's a bit harder. One is, in the Premier League, in the last 5 seasons, which player has been sent off more than any other player?
Cristiano Romero.
Yes, of course it is. His 6th sending off in just 4.5 seasons, which is kind of mad, really. But that was an easy one. But here's the harder one, okay? In the entire English football, professional football pyramid, so the 92 football clubs, there are 2 teams that have got an unbeaten record at home. One is Bromley, top of League 2, so the 4th tier of English football, Bromley. Who are the other team? They're in the Premier League. So a team that is undefeated at home this season.
That's a tough question because I know Villa, they have lost twice. I think.
Yes, they have. Arsenal lost against Man United at home.
Yeah. Brentford.
It's a good guess. No, they lost. Was it a couple of weeks ago? They lost at home, but they have a good home record. You're in the right ballpark. It's not the biggest of clubs.
Yeah, I don't.
They're not even the biggest club in their region.
I don't know.
The Black Cat, Sunderland. Sunderland. There's only 2 clubs in the entire English football. Well, football.
I saw the stats. I saw the stats this during the weekend. How could I forget that?
Right. Well, that brings us to the end for this episode, this edition of the European Soccer Show. Thank you so much for everybody watching. Thank you, Leo, yet again for joining me.
Thank you, Daniel.
Everybody, keep your eyes out for midweek games. We'll be back. Next week could be a bumper session, lots of midweek matches, lots of cup games. We should probably a little mention because, like, you got the quarterfinals of the Coppa Italia, of the Coupe de France, that kind of thing. But also midweek matches for the Premier League. Tottenham face Newcastle. Will they pull away from the relegation zone? Will Newcastle actually? What was I going to say? What's the opposite of underwhelm? I think it's just whelm. Will Newcastle United ever whelm again? Yes, but thank you, everybody. Make sure you follow us on social medias and so on, etc., etc. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.